Yeah, trust me, my man.
All right. Oh my god. Mm. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, it's you.
Oh, Alamo pouch. Okay.
Huh? Nope. Good luck. See you.
Oh.
Or not. I think one thing is for certain, AEW Collision has been a great pro wrestling show on Saturday night. Whether you find it to be a success, it needs to be something. That is a very subjective topic, especially with the time slot on Saturday night. But this one was surprised it's been great. It's been different than Dynamite. Talent we haven't seen on time in a very long time seems to be getting the spotlight. And CM Punk. Everybody was wondering, is CM Punk going to take this seriously? Is CM Punk going to is his backstage reputation going to come into play? Is it going to ruin the show? CM Punk is taking his backstage role very seriously. And he's working incredibly hard to make sure his reputation is of that. CM Punk is showing the leadership backstage for AEW Saturday Night's for Collision. It seems to be taking seriously his role as a locker leader. This is according to AEW source. Punk has incentive to repair his damaged reputation as a malcontent without a filter or necessarily social skills, along with others in powerful positions, both to secure cheers from savvy well-bred fans, and also to show his lofty rivals who are the veteran leaders of Dynamite. The word from backstage at Collision is that he is taking all of this very seriously, that this is his show, and he's taking pride in putting his stamp on the air and off-air vibe in the locker room. Sources have said from PW Torch that they don't necessarily reflect reviews of everyone in the room, and some of different experiences that are less positive. But overall, the vibe appears to be moving in the right direction after some tension in his first week back. Related to his early team at the Bucks, which I honestly feel he can't prove it. That's all that matters, and everybody's fucking crybaby. There's been insider takes in his promos since his first week back alerts, the issues he had with TV and others in the business. Tony Khan has also assembled the Collision roster strategically people who had conflicts with Punk from being around him on Saturday nights, and that appeared to be paying off in the early stages of Collision. You know, I would go CM Punk, obviously. The type of guy CM Punk is, he knows that the Bucks are not going to be on Collision. He knows Kenny Omega and Page are not going to be on Collision. They're going to be strictly on the Dynamite. Tony Khan is strategically setting the roster so that the people who don't want to work with CM Punk don't have to, and they have Dynamite that they could work on. But CM Punk, looking at this, he's got his own show. He's the leader of that locker room. Things are going to go his way. He's the reason why the show exists. There's no way Warner Brothers Discovery is giving AEW another 2-hour block at prime time like Saturday night. But CM Punk, they can fucking pride to you and tell you that's not the case. All they want. CM Punk is the reason for it. CM Punk's going to take great pride in this. He's going to make sure he's better than Dynamite. He's going to do things differently than it's being done overall with nights. It is his stamp, it is his reputation, it is his show. And I honestly think that Collision right now is better than Dynamite. It is. The presentation's a lot smoother, the presentation's a lot cleaner. They do things that they used to do back in the day that they're people give you. They show like the promos in the beginning of the show to set the table for the rest of the show for 2 hours. We got some great wrestling. Good great wrestling on Dynamite, but Collision has been churning out banger after banger after banger on Saturday night. Storylines are simple. They're not over indulging in multiple storylines at the same time. Now, but bunkering through with a piddles, bottles, and on Saturday night, it's been a great show for AEW. And his reputation's good. He needs to show everybody that he's going to work within the boundaries of the company and do what's best for the company. You should have expected this, and I'm genuinely happy. The show is a success. He's doing great. I think he's great in this one, even better in this one than he was when he first came back after 7 years. And I honestly think they're going to be learning for AEW moving forward. I can't wait to see what they do with the weeks to come. And I honestly feel like it's definitely something that is differentiated its products where they could, if they wanted to, go into a full hard brand split and really have some fun with it. So we will continue to monitor AEW Collision, but CM Punk's reputation right now is working, and he's working to rebuild that on Saturday night. Speaking of CM Punk, there was news article from Funny that also came from Voices of Wrestling. Funny confirmed their report about CM Punk wanting to be a part of the Blood and Guts match in Boston, Massachusetts at the TD Garden on July 19th. It could have happened. The Blood and Guts match ended up getting, unfortunately, hampered with some injuries. We don't know what's going on with Billy Yuta. As far as I see, he's going to be available for that match. But the thing that's going to be missing from this match is Bryan Danielson, as he suffered a broken arm. It's not like it's not broken arm. It's a real deal broken arm. Broke his arm at the big door in his match with Kazuchika Okada and has to be backstage for AEW since removing him from the match. He will not be in Blood and Guts. CM Punk offered to get involved in the match, says Voices of Wrestling. Fightful confirmed Voices of Wrestling's report that Punk pitched himself member of the Blackpool Combat Club team. Now, whether this is serious or not, or whether he actually expected this to be accepted, That is known at this time. He has expressed a desire to work with me in the past, but that said, he's not going to be able to as he wants to. They don't want to. More than likely, Hunk wants it, and the lawyers and the team on the side is not going to allow that to happen. One source said, when Fightful news about issues with Blackpool Combat Club, John Moxley, CM Punk, they were told that Moxley was not opposed to the idea. Moxley is more than likely, especially more than the Bucks, going to be a little bit more forgiving for CM Punk, I feel. For both teams, the mystery partners for both teams have already been determined. As Tony Khan said that on Wednesday, we will find out who those men are going to be 1 week before the show. I think that would have been great. But again, it goes to show you that CM Punk wants to do business. He wants to do business with AEW. He wants to do business with the Elite. He wants to make money. He wants to put all this aside. The bygones, fix the mistakes that he made. But he doesn't want it. Now, who's to say that they go the opposite way and end up working with him in the future? Nobody knows. Eventually, we're going to get that match. Eventually, things will be to a point where people want to work together, are allowed to work together. It will. It's the biggest match in AEW. Don't use it. It's going to happen. But it's the match going to happen. That is my prediction. Whether it's at all, whether it's at all out, whether it's cheater, it's going to happen. So, Punk implementing it's not going to happen. Seems like a great idea. I don't think he'll really should go into blood and guts, being that he's, a little fragile with the injuries as of late, and, him being that could be huge, detrimental huge for AEW, but I would think the idea of it sounds great. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's CM Punk on Blackpool Combat Club against the Elite. It's like a dream come true, but this dream is going to remain nothing more than a fantasy. But it goes to show you the important thing out of this is Punk wants to do it. The other side doesn't want to do it. It's some excuse on Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt still is not set for a WWE return. Wyatt's been sidelined since late February as he's out of action with illness that prevents him to return to the ring. People select inquired about Wyatt's status. The WWE higher up confirmed to fight that Wyatt is still sidelined and is hearing the function. Still waiting clearance and hopefully for a return whenever that occurs. He will be back on WWE screen after that. Wyatt was involved in the fight anniversary and then we planned for a WrestleMania match. Also scheduled to be Wyatt against the past was both Dallas on this week. It was to be playing on the Howdy's brother Bo Dallas, who's been on television since, and Alexa Bliss, who is out for all of 2023 on maternity leave. Not heard a creative plan for Bray Wyatt to digital get cleared by WWE. Whether or not you think he's ready for WWE television, there is a pocket of fans that just they don't. He's injury prone. Things like this are going to occur. The storylines never get fleshed out. They always leave people away from his original plan and his original thinking. And WWE does not trust Bray Wyatt. Trust Bray Wyatt. Outside of the medical, I'm not even talking about his personal medical. It's too much for a storyline, for a character that doesn't really need. He's doing everything to make cryptic and he's straight on a shirt. That's fine. He's doing it. It's telling you guys about Red Wire. Red Wire, their lives, great trust. Is Red Wire going back? Welcome to the dance. Simple is best. Let's go back to make it great. Let's go back to one family pride. And I'm not even being that feels that way. The Undertaker was injured about Red Wire and gave his thoughts to the writer and quotes since Extreme Rules last year in 2022. The Undertaker said this. They to raise character up to the original character. Get away from They got themselves booked into a situation where it's going to be difficult for him to have matches. If you're family friend, special audience, it's work right here. Right now, it's in college. It's work right. And they go out of here. And I like this story. I think they just have to figure out what they do. His roles and then his ability to work. He's an incredible partner, but he's not getting the opportunity to win. I think the best thing all on him. We'll see what happens.
Ugh.
Is he clear? Don't know. Clearly the process is not clear. Got tipped off you that the hell is number one on television. He's not. Is he done personally sabotaging Bright Wire? Is Smith Mirror personally sabotaging Bright Wire? Just one moment to read back, knowing that administration is mostly critics and not so much triple H like it was going to bad. Vince McMahon all those plans since he came back in January. His presence had been broken. Since then, is an issue. Seriously, that's exactly what it is. But the reason why Red Wire is TV. This is just
Be careful out there.
Right, why we never see that WWE television and you can thank Vince McMahon for that. Not multiple. They are their project. Multiple things we will live. We will live next week. Shows minus AW.
Enough of that.
It has many faces as there is people on it. There's no point idea what's just. What some people believe is the physical embodiment of justice. Evil is the face of true evil. And that's because the human experience is incredibly subjective. We're all raised in different circumstances. We're all born with different genes. And therefore something that we believe concretely somebody could.
Or is it better? It is neither, so beware. It will drench the snow with blood and leave nothing but despair.
Concretely. And while this absolutely
Whoa.
applies to the real world, it also applies to the fiction that well, most believe that Nagata's intentions of making the entire world feel pain so nobody would ever hurt each other again was the wrong thing to do. There are absolutely people who sympathize with his cause. Well, most believe that Madara casting the world into infinite Tsukiyomi so that they could have their perfect dream of a life was the wrong thing to do. There's many people who believed that that would be nice in premise, because obviously we learned down the line that infinite Tsukiyomi was deployed to create more white Zetsus so Kage could use them in a battle against the Otsutsu. It's more the idea of an infinite dream where you get whatever you want than some people sympathize with. While these characters, Madara and Nagato and many other bad guys all throughout Naruto, bring up legitimate moral questions that have split sides, there is one character that very few people will sympathize with. So Madara and Nagato definitely have their fans. Today we're going to talk about my favorite bad guy. That bad guy being Danzo. So I love a villain who has a tragic backstory that turned them into an idealistic terrorist trying their best to reshape the world in probably the incorrect way. Way more than that, I love somebody who's just evil. And Danzo is most definitely just evil. See, well, there's people out there who would make the argument that Danzo was always doing what he thought was best for Konoha. What he was doing was almost 100% of the time not what was best for Konoha. And the quite literal best example of that is when Danzo wanted to destabilize the Hidden Rain and ended up creating the Akatsuki. Danzo was a complicated man, a man responsible for the hidden operations of Konoha. He was the leader of the Root, the third Hokage's head advisor. And more than anything, he was a man who would stop at nothing to make sure that Konoha came out on top. One of his biggest blunders happened at the conclusion of the Third Great Shinobi World War. Danzo saw a strengthening Akatsuki movement lighting the fires of change in the Hidden Rain. Danzo, afraid that the Akatsuki would link up with the Hidden Rain, who had just previously defeated Konoha in a war, the Second Great Shinobi World War, decided he would have Hanzo, the Salamander, cannibalize the Akatsuki by turning them against each other. And he accomplished all of this by simply laying 3 dead bodies at the foot of Hanzo the Salamander and saying, look what Nagato did. And just like that, that's all Hanzo the Salamander needed to decide the Akatsuki had to go. This has always been suspect. Hanzo the Salamander is known as one of the most powerful and disciplined ninjas in existence. A man who fought against and defeated the legendary Sannin, Mifune, and Grenichio. A legend of the Second Great and Third Great Shinobi World War era of ninjas. A man with arguably no rival outside of maybe Sakamoto Hatsuki. Under the weight of the slightest provocation from Danzo, Hanzo decided to throw his convictions out the window and no longer agree with the ideologies of the Akatsuki. And in that moment, going so far as deciding to kill Yahiko to cut the head of the snake off. But why would Hanzo throw all of his convictions and, more importantly, his power out the window? Not only did Hanzo the Salamander lose all of his convictions that allowed him to agree with the Akatsuki, he also got way weak. Now, the narrative that we've been given in Naruto is that Hanzo, at the conclusion of the Second Great Shinobi War, became obsessed with battle. In his battle against Mifune, we learned that Hanzo no longer held the sword that was his body, becoming so self-centered that he forgot to battle against each other and push himself constantly. And because of this, he lost all of the power that he was so desperate to hold on to. But based off the pretty good amount of information we have about Hanzo the Salamander, this narrative doesn't line up all that well. So the purpose of today's video is to ask the question, what if Hanzo didn't lose his convictions, but was instead cast into Genjutsu and was acting merely as a puppet? Hanzo. Yes, that's right. Today we're asking the question, was Hanzo the Salamander under Konoha Kame? Before we get speculating about Hanzo the Salamander's mental health, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, hit that noty bell. And if there's any other anime out there you like besides Naruto and Boruto, I'd probably talk about them on my other anime channel, where I talk about all other anime besides Naruto and Boruto. If you like the idea of me talking about all the anime out there, you can love my anime podcast, The Doctor's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime. This week, it's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. The Hidden Rain. They've always been a point of contention for Konoha. The animosity between the Hidden Rain and the Hidden Leaf started in the Second Great Shinobi World. When the Hidden Stone, the Hidden Sand, and the Hidden Leaf all went into battle against each other, they all met in the middle of all of their countries. It was unfortunately the Hidden Rain. So the Hidden Rain didn't love being used as a battlefield. So, a prodigal figure in the Hidden Rain, a child, was an experiment to essentially create the perfect weapon who had grown up to very much become the perfect weapon. Hanzo the Salamander stepped up and battled back 3 separate nations. The likes of Grenichio from the Hidden Sand in her peak, defeating the legendary Sannin and beating back the Hidden Stone, one of the fiercest military forces on Earth. And in that moment, the Hidden Rain was put on the map. A small country with a military might to go toe-to-toe with anybody. So while a large part of the Hidden Rain was destroyed in this conflict, the Hidden Rain wanted that all the other countries had to retreat out of the hidden ring. Quitting is subjective, but Hanzo the Salamander's rocket ride to stardom and power wasn't the only thing that came out of the Second Great Shinobi World War, as on top of Hanzo cementing himself as the true leader of the Hidden Reign, the Akatsuki was also technically born because of the Second Great Shinobi World War. Jiraiya stumbled upon the Abe orphans and trained them up, and then they went on to start the first iteration of the Akatsuki. Started as a group of trained individuals trying to use dialogue to find peace between nations. Well, yes, technically the Akatsuki was taking on ninja work while trying to get this dialogue thing going, and therefore they were openly engaged in conflicts. The only reason they were taking that ninja work was for money, so that they could have enough power to push this dialogue idea onto everybody.
Fire Lena. What up? Welcome, welcome.
Gonna need some of
How
that.
you doing? Appreciate the love. I actually meant to catch this damn thing. So I guess I'm gonna try to catch the little rabbit deal that I'm supposed to be hunting. I wasn't really paying attention to the monster while I was fighting it. Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Oops, shit, I didn't sharpen the fucking weapon.
Just you wait.
Come on. Come on. Come on. There we go. Ah, shit. Man.
Get ready.
Yeah. Oh. Bitch.
It's fleeing. Go.
Motherfucker. Come back here. Damn, I actually wanted to do those bones.
I placed her. Be careful.
Come on. Come on my trap. Come on my trap.
Broke the trap.
Shit. Ah. The body checking the shit out of it. Ah! Bitch. Ah! Wish I had some kind of catch this. That's why you keep some traps. Would you guys like to distract that thing, please? Thank you. I'm supposed to catch it. It's not like I like to hunt. I like to catch stuff. I'm gonna have to start going. I gotta go on some goddamn quests.
I'll be taking that.
Anyway.
Just realize that the whole fund of some small countries, so they will build their own pretty bond. They're seeing anything to work they need to accomplish Yaki Naruto going on sorted out pretty quick. And for a long time, the Akatsuki and the Hidden Rain government, in fact, they more than coexisted, respected each other, and they wanted each other's ideologies to spread around the world. There would be no hurry fast. That's what Hanzo. See, Hanzo the Salamander, for his entire life, had been obsessed with the idea of a free, safe, hidden rain. Since he was created to bring that reality to life, Hanzo as a child took the poison sac of a river salamander and planted into his body that allowed him to create poison
Another
the black
great
salamander, an insanely strong poison that could wipe out entire battlefields of enemies. But more than just being a child experiment, Hanzo dedicated his entire life to constantly getting stronger. In this flashback battle against Mifune, we see that he's a man dedicated to fighting the strongest people he possibly can in order to make himself stronger for the Hidden Rain. In fact, he respects Mifune so much for not retreating and covering the retreat of his fellow samurai that he gives him the antidote to his poison. And Hanzo has a track record of doing things like this. Hanzo shows pity on those he fights so long, and they have promised. This is why he not only named the legendary Sonic, but let them go back to Konoha, because one day he wanted to fight them again, and he wanted the strongest version of himself in order to battle against them. And for a long time, he was the strongest version of himself. In the Second Great Shinobi World War, he was probably the strongest human on Earth, but by the time the Third Great Shinobi World War was around, for some reason, he's a frail, decrepit man, desperate to hold on to his power. Couldn't even take out one of the paths of pain. We get from a man who was able to defeat a man who was able to defeat 4 paths of pain while also battling against Orochimaru and Tsunade, to a man who stared down death in complete fear without the ability to defeat even one of the paths of pain. Now, like I said earlier, the narrative we have on this was he became obsessed with power and stopped working on himself. He no longer trained or battled, focused on keeping as much power in the Hidden Rain himself as possible. But why? Why have this shift in personality? Is it to teach us the story that absolute power runs absolutely? But ignore an narrative blocked by Seer and have a little fun. Take down the, well, this might have happened trail with me. See, instead of the possibility of Hanzo gaining a position of power, or that position of power going to his head, what if instead Gonzo identified that the selfless and defensive nature of Hanzo as the ruler of the Hidden Rain create them into one of the world's greatest military mights. A military might that one day rear its ugly head back in Konoha and possibly work together with the likes of the Hidden Stone or the Hidden Sand to finally crush Konoha for good. Well, we actually know that Danzo feels exactly that way. See, the reason that Danzo cooked up a scheme to turn the Akatsuki versus the Hidden Rain is because he realized that if the Akatsuki and the Hidden Rain gained power in the Hidden Rain, they would pose a legitimate threat to Konoha. And the chance these two parties would lock was high. So watched the Akatsuki in their formation. He watched them go across the nation and try to find peace through dialogue. In fact, he respected what they were doing so much that he hoped that they succeeded and their ideology would spread across the world. And Hanzo wanted to talk with the likes of Yahiko and Nagato and Konan and work together with them to spread this way of thought, which is why the idea of Hanzo becoming this power-hungry monster trying to grab everything he can and keep it away from everybody else makes no sense to me. Think about the timeline. The third data book tells us that the Second Great Shinobi World War and the Third Great Shinobi World War were basically back-to-back, with the exact wording being that the Second Great Shinobi World War rolled into the Third Great Shinobi World War. So at the
Let's
end
go
of the
hire
Second
some
Great
more
Shinobi War,
mercs.
we have Hanzo defeating the legendary Sannin and turning Konoha back. So at that moment, Hanzo has both his convictions and his power. Now, the event with Danzo coming into the Hidden Rain to try and turn the Akatsuki versus the Hidden Rain is at the end of the Third Great Shinobi War, which is spitballed to have lasted anywhere between 7 and 10 years. Now, I know that's a good amount of time, but stick with me here. We know that after the conclusion of the Third Great Shinobi World War, the Jiraiya stayed in Ame for 3 years, training the Ame orphans. We know that when Jiraiya returned to the village, that Minato was already a Jonin, with Genin of his own. And conservative and accurate estimations would place Minato anywhere between 14 and 16 at this time. And since we know that Minato was the Hokage for 2 to 3 years, and he became the Hokage after the conclusion of the Third Great Shinobi World War, that means that Jiraiya returning to the village when Minato is about 15 years old, and Minato becoming the Hokage at roughly 21, gives us about 6 years of the Akatsuki existing prior to the Yahiko Nagato stabbing. Well, obviously, it probably took a while for the Akatsuki to grow their numbers, and we know they grew their numbers. If we take the story at face value here, that means in those 6 years, somehow Hanzo went from a man who respected the Akatsuki and wanted their power to grow to the point where their ideologies were a worldwide accepted way of dealing with problems, to a bitter, frail old man who was trying to do everything he could to grasp any last bit of power he could. But those two ideologies don't line up intrinsically. Look at Hanzo, somebody apparently very worried about retaining as much power in the Hidden Rain as possible, want another entity in the Hidden Rain to become a worldwide force, even going so far as wanting to work with this entity that also existed in the Hidden Rain to spread their influence. The very idea of the Akatsuki, from the jump, threatened Hanzo's grip, control, and power in the Hidden Rain. However, because he was a man of his ideals, he was willing to threaten his power in order to achieve peace. Up until he met Danzo, and Danzo played the corpses of a couple of hidden stone shinobi at his feet. They were shinobi who used the transformation technique to look like hidden stone shinobi, and then they attacked the Akatsuki. And then Danzo collected their bodies and laid them in front of Hanzo. It was at that moment that Hanzo decided, why wouldn't he talk to Yahiko or Nagato? Why would he jump straight to, let's kill the leader of the Akatsuki? Genuinely, the shift in attitude, given the timeline that we understand, feels too severe. Especially when considering the supposed crime of the Akatsuki. I mean, literally, all Danzo does is have a couple of Anbu/root members use transformation jutsu to turn themselves into hidden stone shinobi, and it has them create a ruckus on the outskirts of the Hidden Rain that the Ame orphans go to subdue through dialogue. However, when these Ame members attack Nagato, Nagato kills them. It's not like Nagato wipes out an entire platoon. It's not like Nagato burns down a city. He kills a couple of Hidden Stone Shinobi who were attacking the Hidden Rain, and yet somehow that's enough to convince Hanzo, who for years has sympathized with the Akatsuki cause, to kill the leader? And while obviously we understand that Danzo was the motivating force in all of this, understanding why Danzo was the motivating force in all of this helps understand this theory just a little bit better. So the reason that Danzo wanted the Akatsuki and the Hidden Rain to not come together is because he believed that they would work together with the Hidden Stone. On top of this, by sowing discord in the Hidden Rain, he believed that it would extend the Third Great Shinobi World War, because as we know, Hiruzen decided to step down as the Hokage in order to bring all of the blame of the Third Great Shinobi World War onto himself. However, Danzo believed that Konoha had the rest of the world by the throat, and therefore calling an end to the Third Great Shinobi World War was actually Konoha letting go of its advantage. Therefore, by sowing discord in the Hidden Rain, a very powerful and turbulent area, Danzo believed Third Great Shinobi World War would continue. For all intents and purposes, this was one of the most important things that Danzo had ever done, at least if Danzo was successful in making sure the Hidden Rain to have war with all of the places, Konoha could take over the world. Now, the reason it's important to understand that is because we need to understand that Danzo was pretty desperate. Desperate enough to try. Now, just having a couple of Anbu members dress up as Hidden Stone Shinobi in order to sow discord isn't really trying anything. It also shouldn't be enough to convince Hanzo. However, we do know that Danzo, when he was meeting with Hanzo, had a bandage on his face. That means this was which makes sense because he did just me well in his so we can get away. Danzo's trying to accept the Third Great War. That means the Danzo had to Young. We know that he touches all battlefield for the third Christian of the World War, but he was also very young. There's like at least a decade there. So it can't be Kodo Matsukame. At least it can't be Shisui's Kodo Matsukame, which actually strengthens this theory. Okay, none of this was planned. But we're about 13 minutes into the video here, and I just found a fatal error to this theory that somehow I didn't think of previous. Yes, the Kodo Matsukame in Danzo's face cannot be Shisui's. Well, at this point, Shisui has unlocked Kodo Matsukame. Danzo is still not. For Shisui isn't the only person ever with Kodo Matsukame. In fact, multiple people have been said to have genjutsu similar to Kodo Matsukame. Those two people being Obito and Shisui's grandfather, Kagami Uchiha. Shisui states that Kagami Uchiha had genjutsu stronger than his own, certifying to the fact that Shisui had Kodo Matsukame. The weird thing about Kagami Uchiha is that even though we see him using his Tokurama's guard when Tokurama's retrieved from the cloud in the first direction of the war, that is genuinely the only time we ever see Kagami, with it largely being believed that Kagami Uchiha is dead by the time that Shisui and Itachi are toddling already, at least by the time that Shisui and Itachi where Kagami Uchiha will never have. We know he was alive during the first direction of the war. We know that him and Danzo were close, and that's pretty much it. The reason that we know both him and Danzo were close because both him and Danzo were on Tokurama's protection team. Now there are a lot of places that Kagami Uchiha could have died. He could have died in the first direction of the war. He could have died in the second or the third. But considering that Kagami Uchiha's age is relative to Danzo, he probably survived with the first direction of the wounds. At least needed to have kids. Now, unfortunately for us, we don't have any images of Danzo between the first direction of the World War and we'll see him in his reign in the third. The second direction of the World War is one of the least understood eras of Naruto. And so when exactly Danzo acquires this bandage, we don't really know. However, what we do know is that Orochimaru doesn't flee to Italy until the conclusion of the third Great Shinobi War, which means that Orochimaru and Danzo have worked together to get in Shin Uchiha's argument. As we know, Danzo sought out Orochimaru after he was expelled out of the village, and that's when he got Shin Uchiha's arm, even though he was most likely working in conjunction with Orochimaru in order to try to recreate woodlands. This means Danzo, like any other user of a no-jutsu that doesn't come from their clan, only use one, because obviously you can't deactivate it, so you need to be able to cover one. And thus Danzo actually had Kodo Matsukame before even Shisui. I mean, think about it. It actually makes a fair amount of sense. With Shisui, we'd have his plan to use Kodo Matsukame on Kagami to brainwash him into stuff. Danzo stated that Shisui's eyes would be better suited if they were in his hands. Now, what this sounds like just something an evil dude would say, what if Danzo was kind of tipping his hand here? What if Danzo thinks that Kodo Matsukame would be better suited in his hands because he's used it before? See, there's revolving theories about Shisui's Kodo Matsukame. Since every single Uchiha outside of Shisui apparently has different abilities in each eye, people have begun to speculate that Shisui also had two different abilities in each eye. But that won't be Kodo Matsukame, but Kodo Matsukame's look different is varied. With the eye that Itachi and Shisui held on to, having the Kodo Matsukame that's able to completely brainwash anybody and has its headgear cooldown, because the brainwashing is so complete that you can never be broken out of it. With the other eye having a lesser, more minor brainwashing that does completely change who you are, but you can be broken out of it. And that's the eye that Danzo ended up. And the reason that Danzo was able to use this Kodo Matsukame so frequently isn't only just because he has Hashirama cells, but also because he has the weaker version of Kodo Matsukame that has a lesser cooldown. But Kagami Uchiha's ocular prowess is said to be greater than that of Shisui. Maybe both of his eyes had a higher level of Kodo Matsukame, one that you get broken out of, but also has a very long cooldown. And mind you, since at this current moment, Danzo does not have Hashirama cells, he would have the insane healing factor that allows him to recover Kodo Matsukame quicker. So, if hypothetically, Danzo was most likely serving somewhat beside Kagami Uchiha for decades to either be the reason that Kagami died or be around when Kagami died, decided to not let his eyeballs go to waste and pluck one out and place it in his face. He would be the wielder of a genjutsu similar to that of Kodo Matsukame. However, you also have the insane cooldown that comes along with that, and thus with Danzo, then with Hanzo. He wasn't simply just laying bodies out in front of him to show him how far the Akatsuki had strayed. He was also doing something very similar to what he did to Mifune at the Five Kage Summit. He was, under the guise of a conversation, without having to remove his bandage, placing somebody very important. Mr. Genjutsu. A Genjutsu so complete that Hanzo completely abandoned his ideals. He threw out the notion that the Akatsuki were the good guys, instead taking the word of a ninja from a village that had destroyed his village just a couple of years prior. And just like that, Hanzo wanted the Akatsuki gone. But stick with that. Remember that Hanzo had his ideologies in line until Danzo told him elsewise. That at this current moment, for all intents and purposes, there's no reason for us to believe that Hanzo had stopped sharpening the blade that was him. Hanzo at this moment seems as powerful and regal as he ever was. Because not only does Hanzo see a change in ideology, he also sees a change in how Genjutsu make Hanzo, well, the other person outside of Kagami and Shisui that holds a Genjutsu similar to Kodo Matsukame is Obito. And we know that Obito uses Genjutsu on Yakuza. Now, Obito uses Genjutsu on Yakuza to trouble his blood mist, to create the blood mist village, to keep it under the control of Obito, and also exact revenge for Rin's death. However, Yakura didn't stay under this Genjutsu forever. I mean, he did stay under it for years, but not forever. When Ao, the human killer, acquired a Byakugan and looked at Yakura, he saw the Yakura's chakra was disturbed, and thus broke Yakura out of this Genjutsu. However, breaking him out of this Genjutsu wasn't for the best. The problem of being placed under a powerful Genjutsu is that for years, your five senses are completely changed. They're controlled, manipulated, and completely destroyed by the person who puts you under that Genjutsu. Therefore, being broken out of that Genjutsu is an intense shock. And that intense shock basically killed Yakura and made him catatonic until eventually he dies. What happens to Hanzo? Well, my theory speculates that Hanzo was placed under this Genjutsu that made him a power-hungry being who was only concerned with making sure he could hold onto as much money and power as he could. And once he was placed under this Genjutsu, Hanzo stopped training. The blade that was him became dull. He became more focused on uprooting other powerful entities in his village than making sure that he was the most powerful entity. See, because the way that Hanzo had held onto his power previously was simply by being the strongest dude. But the ideology switch between wanting people around you to be powerful so you can power up by fighting them, to killing anybody else who was powerful because they threatened your path. Happened because of Genjutsu. As Hanzo switched to this different kind of ideology, he became weak. But what if the real reason that Kagami Shima's Genjutsu was so much stronger than Shisui's wasn't because the brainwashing is more complete or you're unable to break them as Matsukame, but instead that being placed under this Genjutsu weakens you. It's not just like being placed under this Genjutsu hurts all your stats, but we know that Genjutsu is able to control all five of your senses. And we know that all five of your senses are incredibly crucial for ninja battle. You need to be able to see, smell, hear, feel what's going on around you. So what if outside of being able to brainwash somebody, Kagami Uchiha's Kodo Matsukame, like Genjutsu, also messed with your ability to use your ninjutsu, messed with your ability to battle, just messed with you to the point where not only has your entire personality been changed, your has been changed. But if that's a bridge too far for you, we can pretty concretely say that a Kodo Matsukame like Jutsu would stop Hanzo from training you, would weaken, and that goes double if he stays in this Genjutsu for a little bit, and then was broken. Because we don't truly know whether or not you can be broken out of Kagami's Genjutsu, but we do know the consequences of being broken out of a powerful Genjutsu that you've been under a while before dying. And while obviously being broken out of this Genjutsu basically killed Yakura, he spent years under this Genjutsu. Hanzo, at most, would spend a couple of months. And this point is somewhat backed up by the fact that we see Hanzo's death. He's like, oh, how can you make it past all of my power? As all six of the paths of pain encroach into his room. But all we see from Hanzo is that there's an alcohol bottle close by, there's some blood running down his forehead, and they're in a building. But Hanzo famously summons a massive salamander to help him battle. Why would Hanzo not summon the salamander? Why were they still inside? It seems as though Hanzo put up next to no fight. The only things that were broken were some paper screens in his room. But a battle between a man who was able to defeat all three of the legendary Sanin in the 6 paths of pain should have destroyed half the raid village. Yet we did $25 in damage. But the most perplexing part about this is that Hanzo asked, how were you able to make it past all of my implying that he did the very least try to fight them. What's even more perplexing about this is that Hanzo is one of the only people to ever try to break out of Tencent. Hanzo was brought back in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, retreated to a battle between him and Mifune, where we see that he and Mifune had battled in a previous life. Mifune, during this battle, reminds Hanzo of how he died, which Hanzo does remember, but it seems as though Hanzo does not remember large parts of his life. large parts where he lost his edge. But upon remembering Mifune and the battles that they had, Hanzo cuts open his poison sac by himself. Hanzo's convictions are so rock solid that when he remembers Mifune in the battle that they had had previously, he becomes one of the only Edo Tensei people ever to try to take himself out. So obviously tons of Edo Tensei characters gave hints on how you can defeat them, like Gengetsu when he summoned his giant clam, he's telling everybody how to defeat the clam. None of them could physically move against the controls of Kabuto. They all retained their own personalities, and therefore they could give as many hints as possible. Hanzo purposely crippled himself by opening up his gas sac and pulling off his mask, giving Mifune the opening necessary to defeat him. In fact, Kabuto was blown away by this and could take over his body. He was a man whose convictions are so rock solid that he's able to override the rules of Edo Tensei without any Konoha Matsukame in the mix, like Itachi. Have his convictions swayed so seriously that he not only throws out all of his ideals, but his power over a couple of dead bodies, delivered by a man who led armies into a position that could happen. Takumi Uchiha disappears. Danzo's wearing a bandage when he meets face-to-face with Hanzo, and Hanzo undergoes a massive ideological change. Sure, of course, it could just be that absolute power corrupts absolutely. What if something... What do you guys think? Do you go with the theory or the narrative device? Tell me in the comments below. Why, guys, down there, please. For me, like this video, subscribe to the page. By the way, I'm aware that my office looks like it was singled down. He lost all of his statues and divorced me and my girlfriend are moving.
I'm making good progress. I'll just take this. I'll just take this.
Oh, okay. Yep.
That's one.
Ah, bitch.
Go! This looks useful. Let's see. What's this? One step closer to completion. I'll just take this. Mission accomplished. Yeah! Gonna need some of this.
Today's video is sponsored by Genjutsu. Things in there. You control the five senses of basically any person wants. However, not everybody can wield Genjutsu. The Sharingan and therefore have an ability to use Sharingan-based Genjutsu. Genjutsu because the amount of Sharingan required to learn high-level Genjutsu is insane.
I'll be taking that.
Incredible trauma control will never achieve the highest form of Genjutsu, because all of the highest forms of Genjutsu that
Might as
we're
well
aware
put
of
those to use.
come from the Sharingan. However, with great power comes great responsibility, as we've learned that the three highest levels of Genjutsu, Kodo Matsukame, Izanami, and Izanagi, all require a hefty sacrifice to pull off in the first place. Kodo Matsukame having a decade-long cooldown, and Izanami and Izanagi blinding one of your eyes, which has led me to speculate, I'm the person who's been speculating, that Tsukiyomi is actually the greatest Genjutsu of all time. Because for years, it appeared as though Tsukiyomi had no side effects. You could use Tsukiyomi as often as you wanted. Well, sure, of course you have to make eye contact, pull off Tsukiyomi. You were able to break somebody's brain. After dilating time to such a degree that you can either show somebody their entire life or torture them for 72 hours in the span of just a couple of seconds. And the fact that the Genjutsu could be used with next to no detriments, in my mind, made it the most useful Genjutsu in the Naruto universe. However, I got an interesting email then. An email that posed the question, what if Tsukiyomi does, in fact, have detriments? Obviously, Tsukiyomi doesn't have a cooldown, it doesn't blind one of your eyes,
Gonna
but
need
what if
some
its
of
use actually is much more dangerous than either of those things? What if using Tsukiyomi shortens your life? And not by a little bit, but by a lot. See, the mystery of Itachi's death is one of the biggest mysteries in Naruto. We've been told he had some kind of chakra illness, and that repeated use of his MS accelerated the timeline to his death. But what if those things were one and the same? What if it wasn't a combination of a chakra illness and overusage of his MS? What if overusage of specifically Tsukiyomi is what ended up killing Itachi? And there's actually very compelling evidence for this point. By the end of today's video, you'll probably also believe that Tsukiyomi killed Itachi. But before we get to putting our tinfoil hats on, ladies and gentlemen, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that note bell. If you love the idea of me rewiring the way you think about anime, you're gonna love my other channel, where I talk about all other anime besides Naruto and Boruto. If you're with the idea of me talking about it, you're gonna love my anime podcast, Doctor Anonymous, where me and Danny break down everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Before I move any further forward, today, guys, we've got to talk about the sponsor of today's video, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. So, we're gonna talk about this game. So, you guys waiting here, child prodigy, graduated from the Shinobi Academy, the second highest ever written exam score, and completed the first of death by himself in the shooting. An Aqua captain at an age so young that the rules had to be rewritten. The wielder of what should have been the strongest suit in the universe. If it was complete, incomplete is basically the key word when describing Itachi. His story is incomplete, his power is incomplete, his Susanoo is incomplete, his health is incomplete. And all that can tie into the fact that he has chakra disease. And a couple of days ago, we posted a video speculating upon what that chakra disease might be, to which we came to the conclusion that it was an autoimmune pulmonary disease that shortened his lifespan. However, I got a very interesting email that asked the question, what if it wasn't some pulmonary disease from the real world, and actually Tsukiyomi, based off the incredibly small amount of information we have about Itachi's illness? This makes a lot of sense. It seems like I've already said. We learned from Obito after Itachi's death that he had an illness so severe that he was taking medicine to prolong his life so that one day Sasuke would kill him. And we also learned that the overusage of his MS accelerated the timeline on his death. Now, because of this chakra illness, Itachi had incredibly low chakra reserves and stamina reserves, which meant that he basically had to finish any fight he was in as fast as possible, which is why he relied on his one-hit kill weapons like Tsukiyomi, Amaterasu, or his Futsu. All weapons that Itachi could wield to end a fight. But this chakra illness is interesting because it didn't seem to always play Itachi. The early days of us knowing Itachi, that is, when he was in the Anbu and when he was assassinating his entire clan, he didn't seem slowed down by his illness at all. In fact, many speculated on the night of the Uchiha massacre, Itachi was at his strongest while he was alive, as by that time he had already had his MS for roughly a year, and he didn't seem to be slowed down at all by his illness. On top of that, he had been overusing or abusing his MS, and therefore he wasn't blind. But that's what makes the idea of this chakra illness so interesting. See, Itachi murdered his clan when he was 13. So he died when he was 21. So he was in the Itachi for about 8 years. In those 8 years, obviously, his health got substantially worse. Because in Itachi's second light novel, we get a very intricate look into what Itachi did on the night of the massacre. Well, Itachi technically doesn't have to use his MS against Goku because Goku gets himself killed. Itachi does open up the night by using Tsukiyomi on his girlfriend, which we know for an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old Itachi would have been incredibly exhausting. However, after that, Itachi goes on to kill all of the fighting ninja in the Uchiha clan. And while many will go with the narrative that, oh, the all states of Itachi didn't even respect the chakra, ready to let me, they were not. However, the Itachi that we know, the illness-stricken Itachi, wouldn't be able to battle all night, which means the state of this illness had to accelerate with time. Obviously, isn't unheard of. People get more sick all the time. It's how a lot of sicknesses work. But what if we're not just talking about an illness advancing? In fact, what if we're not talking about an illness at all? See, the interesting to me that we would see no signs of Itachi's illness on the night of the Uchiha massacre, even though the Uchiha massacre was probably when we saw Itachi spend the most chakra and outside of maybe his battle against Sasuke, which kills him, mind you. So today's question starts with the question, what if Itachi's illness actually started on the night of the massacre? See, we all understand that Itachi has two MS abilities. Tsukiyomi, Amaterasu, meant to symbolize the sun and the moon, to show the duality of Itachi's nature, because Amaterasu is the goddess of the sun, Tsukiyomi is the god of the moon. Pretty clear case. And well, how is it that Amaterasu works in a straight polar way? That is, Itachi shoots blood flames out of his eyes at whatever he's looking at. Tsukiyomi is a bit weird. Tsukiyomi is a genjutsu, but genjutsu in Naruto is mysterious and super well explained. However, Tsukiyomi, even amongst genjutsu, is kind of complex. Tsukiyomi isn't just a genjutsu, it's a time dilation jutsu. Not only can Itachi control all 5 of your senses with Tsukiyomi, making you hear, feel, smell, taste, anything he wants you to, he also has the unique ability of stretching time in Tsukiyomi, something we don't see in any other genjutsu. Genjutsu usually happens in real time. A good example of this is when somebody is put under genjutsu and they're attacking the wrong person. It's not like they feel as though they're fighting that person for 3 a stranger just being the wrong person. However, Tsukiyomi is not that case. Tsukiyomi basically creates a pocket dimension where Itachi is gone. Itachi decides just how much time you spend in that dimension. We know that Itachi decides how long you spend in this dimension because the amount of time that people have spent in Tsukiyomi is inconsistent. Itachi used Tsukiyomi, I think, 4 times, but there could be more. Used it on Sasuke, Izumi, Kakashi, and Yoji Aburame, and all 4 of those people enter Tsukiyomi for different amounts of time. Kakashi is crucified and stabbed katanas for 72 hours. Sasuke is forced to relive his parents' death for 20 frames. Yoji Aburame has his bugs frozen, so he doesn't really have to go through everything. Izumi Uchiha is given 65 years in Tsukiyomi. Mind you, no matter how much time passes, Yomi only a couple of seconds pass in the real time dilation. If all this happens in a couple of seconds, regardless of how long you spend in the Tsukiyomi universe, why adjust how long somebody's in there? Really, the goal is to break somebody's spirit and make that again. Why not put everybody in there for 10 years? Put Sasuke in the hospital in 72 hours, Kakashi in the hospital for 10 years. Egregious overkill. This is actually a bit into this. People that are looking to Tsukiyomi are the only people in this time dilation universe. Because Itachi is also there. How do we know this? Because all the iterations we see of Itachi placing somebody under Tsukiyomi, he's in it. The 2 best examples of this would be when he tortured Kakashi and stabbed him for 72 hours. He was there basically telling Kakashi he was stupid to ever battle against him. The best possible example of this is when he played Izumi in Tsukiyomi. And obviously, since Izumi was his girlfriend, he wasn't torturing her. Itachi knew that if he killed Izumi and her mother first, he would have no more inhibitions about killing the rest of the clan. However, before he killed her, he wanted her to experience her life. So he placed her in Tsukiyomi and showed her her entire life. Grew up to be a Chunin. She retired and married Itachi. They had children. Both of them lived together until they were 80 years old, and both of them died of old age. Yes, that's right. Not only does Izumi die in the Tsukiyomi world, Itachi also dies for spending 65 years in a time-dilating universe existing in Izumi's head. Before Itachi even started the Uchiha Massacre, he lived a lifetime with Izumi, who genuinely think, upon hearing them, that a Genjutsu that powerful would exist without consequences. So what the real reason that Tsukiyomi is used for 3 days or less after Izumi isn't because he doesn't believe in overkill, but actually because it's killing Itachi. What if every single day that Itachi spent in Tsukiyomi subtracts from it in his life work in the real world? Considering the fact that Itachi spends 65 years in the Tsukiyomi world before the Uchiha Massacre, after which he begins to show the signs of his illness, actually gives this theory some pretty good legs. And I know what they're saying. This plan is a good question. So we know in the Naruto universe, as you age, you have less and less chakra. You lose power. It's the same way that works in the real world. Because this comparison we saw battle against Rokugaru was substantially non-prime. The Inoki we got at the point where Shinobi World War, substantially non-prime. Hashirama we got brought back to it at Tensei, substantially non-prime. So if we say hypothetically, you're born with 50 chakra, and you train and you train and you train until eventually you have a bunch of chakra. The peak of your pack, and then every year after your peak, you lose 1 chakra. Until eventually, when you kick the bucket as an old man, you have, let's say, 45 to 60 chakra. Itachi and the Master had 100 chakra.
Oh, shit. Whew, okay. We're gonna take a quick break. While I get something to eat, and then we'll be right back.
Program interviewing Random aka Megaran. First and foremost, why nerdcore?
Because I never even knew what nerdcore was for a majority of the time that I was, I guess, doing it. I just wanted to kind of talk about some more true to life and nerdy topics over some 8-bit beats. I was always a big fan of the 8-bit sound, Mega Man, the Mario, stuff like that. So I decided to combine, the love for the games with the love for hip hop and put it together just to see what would happen.
Yes, sir. All right.
Important thing in an anime, just like
All right.
the mother and all that plot manifests itself as much combat. Well, you know, as TXT, this is your personally accepted that nothing get in the way of walls. By the way, this feels like it's doing time to that's useful. I got a second dog. His name is Wag. We love him. Which means even beloved characters shouldn't get in the way of plot. Beloved characters sometimes get in the way of plot is that plot. In a way that those beloved characters end up finding themselves in the crosshairs of plot is when being characters so powerful introduced that nobody was going to currently stand. The plot gets more enough to tell them that the character is correctly within the plot, which means that character is now the next to go.
One step closer to completion.
Whether being character getting an insane power that somehow makes them stronger than the person in the plot, or the person powerful gets a nerf.
Mission accomplished.
The main character get an insane that somehow makes them stronger than the person being unable to clear this. So anybody who likes it, please be happy. So you has probably more circumstances where insanely powerful character got missed out of the plot that any other anime there's only ever possible exception being the family focus. But there again, don't worry, no matter what these circumstances or insanely beloved and powerful character gets nervous or plot. Well, there are three very important circumstances where this happens. The first one is Kinemon dies from an unexplained illness in his battle against Gara. The second circumstance is Ichigo dies from his unexplained illness in his battle with Sasuke. The third important example of this in all Naruto is when Madara is blown out by Black Sets. All three were characters when at the current time of their death in the hospital in the anime pretty much seemed until the plot stepped in and And while arguably Monroe death was the most important out of these three, I would say the one that gets talked about the most is, ironically, Itachi's. And it's probably because, one, Itachi was massively beloved, two, his death was unexplained, and three, at least in the case of Monroe, we saw why he died. I mean, we know exactly how and why Monroe died. It was very clear means, which is like with how the fascination of JFK's assassination still moves within this country to this day. Because that unfortunately can't answer the video explaining just how he teaches you to there's a little further depth than just saying plot. Now, today we're going to see evidence that was brought forward for the manga is now this purchase of the replay medicinal knowledge of practice. All these last few done. Today, we're talking what in the background of today's video, that's because the dog has a lot of anxiety today. That is a real lot of possibly young shit, so it's playing to give him a vote. The problem is, I do have this Neutron also the dog, but Neutron wanted me to the dog because they're best friends, and now I have two dogs punching both in the same bed behind them. So here crunching. I'm a single dad. Before we get to diagnosing a fictional character with a disease from the real world, guys, please, hurry. Like this video, subscribe to the page. And my diagnosis will be sad if you guys don't follow my other YouTube channel, The Commander. Or instead of talking about Naruto and Boruto, I talk about all other anime. And my diagnosis will be even sadder if you don't follow my anime podcast, Flowing Topics Anonymous, that I do with
New Folk Kings. That's me.
Chakriolis, plot disease, ninja games. Itachi had something. And for long as Itachi's character has existed, the memes revolving around his disease have also existed. However, we as a community have kind of just signed off on the fact that Itachi was killed by an unknown disease, and that's it. We all realized that Itachi was so powerful that it was probably better for the plot that he didn't exist anymore, and therefore Kishimoto killed him off. Because, while I don't believe that a full-powered Itachi would have been able to solo Madara, a full-powered Itachi definitely would have been a problem and would have shaken up the fourth great Shinobi organization. On top of that, a full-powered Itachi would have beaten Sasuke in a fight until basically the fourth great Shinobi War. So his death was used to move the plot forward, and it was said that during that fight he was substantially nerfed with a disease that it took a bunch of medicine to cure. But how much do we really know about that disease? Well, fortunately, in the case of Itachi, we actually know a lot more about his disease than we know about, well, let's say, Kimimori's. However, obviously, the case of what killed Itachi isn't as obvious as Black Zetsu punching a hole in his chest. So the information revolving around Itachi's death lies somewhere between Kimimori and
Oh, damn it, I missed this game.
because there's
Alright, guys. I will see you dudes later. But call it a day. Thanks for tuning in.